Okay, today I'm sitting down with Captain Ian Seville. Captain Seville is our contracting officer for Force Protection, and we're part of the Air Force Lifecycle Management Center. Ian, do you mind telling me a little bit about your past jobs as well?
Sure. This is my third base, and I've been deployed 3 times into the desert. Previous assignments, I've been office chief in Saudi Arabia. I was a senior contracting officer there, and then I've also been a flight commander in Japan, where I was responsible for about $50 million a year.
Nice.
In government actions.
So lots of contracting experience.
Yeah, done a few.
Good deal. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and jump into my first question here. So throughout your career in contracting, what are some of the ways you've been able to employ fire bullets than cannonballs?
Generally, I found that you don't want to come in and just change everything without knowing the landscape. I like to find out what's been going on, because generally speaking, the guy before me or gal before me wasn't messing things up, so they were pretty smart on how they were doing things. So I look at a situation and say, all right, how can we nudge the ship in a direction I want to go? So you modify a little bit at a time, and by the time you leave, you've actually adjusted course pretty far. So it's like pushing a snowball down a hill. It'll pick up speed and it'll get bigger as time goes on.
Right, good. That's something that we've done here since I've been here for 2 months, and it's seen pretty good success, so that's good. Okay, number 2, zooming out then zooming in is helpful to remain hyper-vigilant to changing market conditions. Has this been applied here in Force Protection?
Yeah, absolutely. What we try and do is really bring industry in on our decision making. We want to know what their input is. One of the mechanisms we use is what's called an industry day, where we'll bring outside companies that know the market a lot better than we do in to talk to us about their products and how they can meet our needs to secure assets for the Air Force and DoD at large. From that, we'll adjust our acquisition strategies and maybe change how we want to buy things. Additionally, we have what's called an approved equipment list of stuff that we can use for security protection. And again, we will go out to industry and say, hey, we have this old but reliable camera, but we want something new or better, or perhaps that old camera is no longer being manufactured. So then we'll zero in on specific needs that industry can fill. So by that's how we zoom out and then bring it back into our specific needs.
All right, good deal. So as I know, contracting is a career field that requires consistency. Are there any structures in place that encourage fanatical discipline?
Yeah, it all starts from day one. All officers and enlisted go through technical training. We send them to a schoolhouse. Everybody gets the same type of training. And to bring it out a little bit, all of DoD has a mandatory training system for officers, enlisted, and civilians, where we progress through various levels of knowledge for acquisition and specific contracting. Now, to get to more of a tactical level, as we do our contracts, we go through a number of reviews. We're not just out there operating on our own. The bigger the acquisition, the more reviews we have. For example, the lawyer will look at my work. Other contracting people that don't sit in my office will look at my work and provide inputs. As it gets even bigger, we'll bring in other functionals, such as other engineers, other program managers to look at my work. And if it's a very large project, we'll actually bring in other services. It's called a peer review. So the Navy might actually look at something I'm doing to see, hey, this is a good idea, or maybe that's not a good idea. You should adjust course here.
Right, and I think that kind of plays a big part in why government acquisitions is historically been known as a slow process, but definitely necessary actions.
Yeah, our biggest concern is not only taking care of the warfighter, getting them the equipment, the services they need, but it's also, we have to be good stewards of the taxpayer dollar. We try not to waste it.
Right.
We want to make sure that we spend the money that we should for the stuff that we need.
Okay. All right, then my last question is, everyone knows, government acquisition is highly regulated. Does this leave any room for empirical creativity?
Yeah, at the higher levels, they see a much larger aggregate of all the contract actions that the DoD or even just the Air Force is executing year by year. So from that, they take that information and they determine policy adjustments to achieve the goals that they have set out, or maybe adjust those goals as needed. From there, they focus the training down and they issue policy for how we should execute. At the lower levels, tactical level, we get to see a much smaller sample size, but we can still see how our changes can affect things. And essentially, we look at each project by project, learning from our past projects to determine the best courses of action for each system.
So what you're saying is that creativity is typically, for government acquisition, is done at the higher level and then it trickles down, but we do have it.
Yeah, we definitely have it. I mean, government acquisition is working inside of a box, but the box does have a lot of flexibility within it.
Right.
And you'd be surprised at certain ways that you can come up and think of something new that people aren't doing, but it's perfectly legal.
Right. All right. Well, good deal. Thanks, Ian. I think that's all I have today, so thanks for sitting down with me.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool. All right, turn this off.